Hi there, Roger Knecht, President, Universal Accounting Center, and this is the podcast, Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I happen to be your host. I'm the president of Universal Accounting Center, and I've been working with accounting professionals for years to help them build the successful accounting businesses that they've intended to. And my guest today happens to be Chris Forsey. He is the president of Lerner Park Media, and it's going to be a topic today that I'm sure all of you are interested in, which is marketing. A lot of our accounting professionals are very interested in how to market their services, so thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
There happens to be, I feel, a misconception between marketing and sales. Sometimes people use those interchangeably.
Yeah.
How would you personally describe marketing versus selling?
That's a good question. I would say marketing is what you're doing to get people to sell to, right?
Okay.
So marketing is capturing leads, it's prospecting, and then the selling, and they both have an art to them, right? And you can get better at both. And I think that if you do your marketing right, you don't have to be a great salesman. You need to know. You need to be able to still close the deal. But you can always become a better salesman. You can always become a better marketer. But they're certainly different things for sure.
Yeah, so I've found that some people are good at one or the other, not necessarily good at both.
Yeah.
You're correct. If you're better at your marketing, the selling is easier.
Yeah.
So just to add to your definition, marketing, I do believe, is where you're going and finding your prospective clients.
Yeah.
It's how you introduce yourself to where they raise their hand and say, hey, I'm kind of interested in what you have to offer. Once they've identified themselves, now you know who they are, the selling begins. And the selling is how do you position yourself to be that expert, that trusted source, the solution to their situation. All of that is done through the nurturing process to the point that now you're having that conversation. And that conversation is the selling, where you're asking for the deal. You're going to ask for the close, the engagement.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting question. From a marketing point of view, a lot of times people bring up the term avatar or ideal client. Why is that so important in the marketing phase?
Well, you got to know who you're selling to, right? One of my early mentors told me that I should do that, and he said, and he says, get a picture of a man and get a picture of a woman, and give them a name, and think about who these people are. And anytime you come up or are thinking of a strategy or an offer, think, would Mike go for this? What does Mike think about this? Or would Julie go for this? And so I found that it's important to know who you're selling to for sure. In the beginning, I think I got hung up a little too much on it. But I think you need to understand your audience and understand what they really want. And we'll probably dive into that a little bit more here in a bit. But if you don't know who you're selling to, because it's difficult to sell. It's difficult to use the words and say the things and focus on the right things to convince them to purchase.
Yeah, I think the right things, the words, that's probably the best part of the avatar, because once you have that ideal client identified, you can put yourself in their situation and say, well, what would they want to hear? What would I need to say to them to spark their interest? Because you're now looking at it through their eyes, and that's probably the best thing. Yeah. Avatars, ideal client, that brings in niching. So just real quickly, from a marketing point of view, what does niching mean?
So niching just means figuring out, narrowing down who you're actually marketing to, right? To give you an example, if you're an accountant, you could say, hey, my niche is business owners. But if you want to take it a step further, hey, my niche is a specific type of business owner. And niching can it's something that I struggled with in the beginning too. I just wanted to sell to everybody, and I just want to say, I thought in my mind, hey, the more broad my audience is, the easier I can just sell to everyone. And that presents a few challenges, and it made growing my business more difficult, because one, you're constantly having to figure out different industries and the verbiage that they use, and there's a lot of ins and outs, and so niching is niching down to saying, hey, I'm gonna make this niche my primary target. And if other business comes along, I may or may not take that, but it's not going to be what I'm focused on. And I think that helps. For me, it's helped grow. It's helped me grow because I'm able to follow get some systems and some templates in place where I just follow that template, and it makes it easier for when I hire someone. I can just teach them, here's our process, and it's the same process every time. It's the same business owner, type of business every time, same process every time. So it makes scaling easier. It makes selling easier when you're able to, imagine if you are a restaurant owner and you're being reached out to an accountant that only does accounting for restaurant owners. That's their primary aim. All of a sudden you feel like, hey, this person, they're going to feel like they understand you more, that they are a better fit for you than John over here that just does accounting for whoever. So yeah, niching can be a really helpful thing, and I get that it's hard for some business owners to do. It was hard for me to really decide, okay, this is my niche and I'm going to stick to this. But in my experience, every time a business owner has done that, they've seen that it's become easier to grow their business.
Yeah. You can typically charge more because you're an expert in that field.
Yeah.
You're typically able to close more because you're in a situation that you honestly can resonate more with the client.
Yeah.
Therefore, more of them are more interested in your services, so your closing rate goes up. The thing I like about niching is it does allow you to be more specific in your marketing. You can tailor your advertising, your messaging to a specific audience, put in the graphics, the words that appeal to them.
Yes.
The other thing that I think is important about niching is, like you were saying earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't take anyone else. It just means that you have a messaging that appeals to a certain type.
Yes.
Well, you can niche to a second and a third and a fourth industry. So niching doesn't imply I only do this. It just says I'm being deliberate in my marketing to that audience. And so I think that's important.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a question. What's the most common myth that is basically about your job, your role, as you're working with people from a marketing and sales perspective?
That's a good question. The most common myth about my job, I probably would say it's probably that certain things just don't work. They're too expensive, or like, for example, one of the things that I encourage business owners to do is to start using Google Ads to get business. And one of the most common things I hear business owners say is, "Oh, I can't afford that. Google Ads are too expensive." And the reality is that if they're too expensive, it just means that your systems are broken. That you can't that you don't have your marketing set up in a way that you can afford to pay for that ad. Because the reality is, most business owners are trying to figure out how they can spend less money on their marketing, and it should be the exact opposite. They should be trying to figure out, how can I spend more money on my marketing? Because if you're spending $1,000 and that's returning you $5,000, then let's spend $2,000. Let's spend more because it's working. So that's probably a terrible answer to that question, but it's the first one that I could come up with here.
No, that's pretty good. The thing I would say about Google Ads, and I think this is a good example, is you need to go into it and know what your cost per acquisition is.
Yeah.
You need to know how much does it really cost for me to find a new client.
Yeah.
But knowing what that cost is, when you amortize it over, I get a client and I keep them for 7 years.
Yeah.
So if I'm making, let's say, $6,000 with one client and I keep them for basically 7 years, I'm easily going to be making $30,000, $40,000 from this client. Well, is it worth that $30,000, $40,000 revenue to spend $1,000 on getting a new client? Well, if I'm spending $1,000 on a new client, my closing rate's 10%, I can afford to pay $100 a lead.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of numbers that you can look at in marketing, but there's really only two that are important, that are really important. Your average cost per acquisition and your average client value, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you want your average client value to be higher than your cost per acquisition for sure.
Yeah.
In my marketing, I like to shoot for a 30-day break even. Right? If I can spend $1,000, because I market services that have a residual as well, and so if I can spend $1,000 in a month and I can make that $1,000 back in 30 days, I'm ecstatic, because I know that the real money's on the back end. That's where the money's going to come, is on that residual.
Yeah, very good. So here's the next question. What piece of advice would you give someone who's starting out marketing? Meaning, initially a lot of businesses will start where they just maybe hit the pavement. They just start knocking doors, reaching out to their maybe circle of influence. So there's really no cost involved in that.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden they're getting some business. They have the revenue. They're going to invest in marketing. What advice would you give to someone?
Okay, so there's a lot of tactical stuff we can talk about. But before I would even give the advice of some tactical stuff, I would say you got to believe in your product that you're selling and your service you're selling. It's very hard to market something that you don't really believe is going to provide a good value to someone. When I started my business, I partnered with an agency or with a company out of the country for actually doing the grunt work, like the SEO stuff, and their systems were a little like they did things differently every time. Like the onboarding was a little different every time, and it caused me with my clients. My onboarding was slightly different. I didn't really have a set process. And so all these things caused me to have a lack of confidence in the service that I was providing. I felt like, yeah, I can provide the service, but I just didn't have a lot of confidence in it. I wasn't really excited, and I didn't really believe, if I'm being honest, in the service that I was providing. That I was providing a better service than another option they could go with.
Yeah.
So it was hard. And so until I sat down and I realized, okay, there was one of my favorite books, The E-Myth Revisited. You read that book?
Yeah.
By Michael Gerber. In that book, he talks about a lot of good things. But he talks about building systems in your business. Building your business with the mindset that hey, this is a franchise that I'm building, even if you're not planning on franchising it, but you're building it in a way that where it's like the model for 5,000 other businesses just like it. And so you've got to have these systems in place. And he talks about the difference between the product that you sell and the commodity. And most people think that the commodity is the product that they sell, right? They think that, let's see, what was the example he gave? It was a Chanel commercial back in the 70s. I mean, you could look at any perfume commercial to get an example of this, but he talks about this Chanel commercial back in the 70s, and he describes this scene of this incredibly handsome man and this, strikingly beautiful woman, and there's no dialogue for most of the commercial. It's just this hypnotic music playing in the background, and the scene's cutting back and forth. You see this tall building and this shadow of a plane going up the building, and the woman approaches the man, and the man leans in, and he with this inviting voice says something like, "Can I ask you a question?" And the woman, you don't even hear what the woman says. She just tilts her head back and opens her mouth slightly, and then the message comes on, and it's like Chanel, share the fantasy. Not a single word about perfume in this commercial. You don't even see perfume, right? It's because they understood that the perfume is the commodity. What they're really selling is intimacy, fantasy, connection, the feeling that someone gets when they use this commodity. Anyway, so bringing that back to like an accounting professional or really any business, it's the thinking about what's the real product that someone wants that they're buying is the feeling they get, right? So if for an accounting professional that's hiring, or for a business owner that's hiring someone for bookkeeping or tax planning, they're looking for that feeling of peace of mind, of confidence, of excitement. And so that's probably the first thing is become confident in what you're selling. And sure, you need to understand your craft. If you're providing bookkeeping service, you got to know how to do bookkeeping. But what can you do to kind of to help your client get that feeling that they really are purchasing, right? And in my experience and my advice would be to first of all think about your system and your process for onboarding, because that's what sets the tone in the beginning, right? And it sets the expectations. And think. If you have systems and you're very organized, and if you're using, I love using automation. So I've got I use the Universal CRM platform for organizing and managing my onboarding processes, and it will automatically send out welcome emails. And when people schedule with me, they automatically get a text message confirming the appointment. They get the reminders. And my clients think that I'm just on the ball, and you know that I'm not that on the ball. I got so much stuff going on, but it's because I have automation that helps me look like a rock star to my clients, right? And those little things, having those processes and having a very clear understanding of what your systems are and your processes are, and you follow them and they deliver results. That's what brings the confidence to to confidently market your service. That might not have been the answer you were looking for, like the tactical stuff. We can get into some of the tactical stuff, but I would probably say that would be the first piece of advice is be confident in what you're selling. or it's just going to be hard. It's going to be, no matter what the tactical stuff you do, it's going to be hard to sell.
Well, you've brought up a number of things that I think are worth mentioning. But one of the things that's really important is when I work with accounting professionals, there's a good deal of confidence that they typically have in the work that they can do, the accuracy of the reports they're providing, the timeliness of the tax preparations and things like that. But what I'm looking for, and I think what the client needs to see, is the enthusiasm, the excitement, the energy that the accountant can bring to the work they're doing.
Yeah.
Because as some people may be dry and uninviting, what we want is the enthusiasm. The business owner needs to see that you're excited about doing this work. And if you're actually in a position where you can bring that enthusiasm, it's contagious. And because it's contagious, like, well, this is the one I want to work with. Exactly. They love what they're doing.
Exactly.
They love what they're doing as much as I love what I do.
Yes.
And that's who I want to work with. And so it's not the accuracy they're buying the enthusiasm and the energy that you're bringing to it. So that's...
When I was a kid, I had a neighbor, and they had this dog that looked just like a wolf. I don't know what kind, it was probably a husky or something.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And anyway, the neighbor would tell us that, oh, this is a wolf, right? And he could sense fear. And so I've never forgot about that. Like, anytime I've seen a dog, I'm like, oh, he can sense my fear. It's the same thing with a client. They can sense your confidence, and they can sense how, and they, I like, you watch the show Shark Tank?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I love watching that show, and it's interesting to see, you can tell some of the entrepreneurs that really don't believe in their product that they're selling. In fact, sometimes the sharks will call them out on it, especially when when they might not be so willing to take like debt versus just giving away a huge portion of their company. But people can sense that. You need to be confident, and you've got to figure out how to get that confidence in your service, and that what you're providing is can really make your client's life better, and help them achieve what they're really trying to achieve. And it becomes more fun when you believe in when you believe and you're excited about your service and your processes.
Agreed. Well, the enthusiasm will get you through the tough times too. It's that passion that really supplements the difficult times, so you can push through. The other thing you brought up is eMyth. Obviously, part of that is the systems side of things. And one of the things I really emphasize is there's two key elements that ensure your success in accounting. It's your confidence to speak to a business owner and confidently say, I can take care of your accounting and tax needs. But the second element of it is competency. If you're not competent at what you're doing, yes, I will trust that the accuracy of the information is there, but at the end of the day, if you're not efficient and it takes you 10 hours to do a job that should have taken you 2 hours, and let's say you build $100 for the project and you were going to make $50 an hour, well, the fact that it now took you 10 hours means you made $10 an hour.
Yes.
The work is still the same. You're still finished and it's accurate, but who's going to make money being in business doing a job that should have taken an hour or two, taking 10 hours to do it? So you've got to be competent. And the systems basically afford that. They accelerate and help you be more efficient.
Yeah.
All right. So here's another question. Having been in business, business owner, running your business, what's a lesson you've learned from running your business that you think every business owner will either eventually learn or should learn?
Probably that building a business is it's a science, and there's people that have already figured things out. You don't have to figure everything out. You just need to read from the people that figured it out, or learn from the people that have figured it out. In the beginning, when I started my business, I was so focused on just making money. I didn't really think about the fact that I'm building a business. It was just, I got to make sales, I got to make money. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's probably what someone should do when they're starting their business, is like, it's all about marketing and just getting sales, getting revenue coming in. But the lesson that I learned that I wish I would have learned earlier is that building a business is not just making money. It's you gotta educate yourself and understand how real businesses function and what positions are needed. And in the beginning, you're gonna have to fill all those positions, but you need to clearly understand what those positions are and what the roles are that those positions that you are filling yourself, and start documenting what you're doing, because I went way too long with just doing all the things myself and not replacing myself. I think that's the biggest lesson, is the quicker that you can replace yourself in your business, the faster you can, or the quicker you can be working more on your business and less in your business. And I would probably say that's the biggest lesson that I wish I would have learned earlier, because I spent way too much time working in my business and not on my business. And so, yeah, that's probably the main lesson I would share.
I'll actually kind of parody that right there. One, nothing happens until you make a sale. So as a business owner, when you first start, the one thing that you're emphasizing is I really just gave myself a job. I said, I hire myself, therefore I'm employed. That was a good thing. My first hire, it's me. Now my job is to keep myself busy. Nothing happens until I make a sale, so that's obvious. But the sooner you can get to the point of realizing that making the sale is one thing, now figuring out how to do the work more efficiently and competently is the next. Well, in documenting that, you're now able to then hire and delegate. And now your business turns from being a job to a business, because now you're running systems and processes and people, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Very
I have
good.
I have a whiteboard in my office, and I'm trying to remember where I got this from. It was Gary Vee, but I've got at the top. I've had for the last few years at the top of my whiteboard. I've never erased it. Be faster and hire people. And so those are the two things. If you can be faster at what you're doing and figure out how you can hire people to put them in place to help you grow your business, the faster you'll grow something you're real excited about.
Perfect. I like that. All right, I'm going to switch gears on you now. We're going to talk a little bit more on the personal side of things. So this is going to be somewhat fun.
Oh boy.
What is one of the things that's most misunderstood about you?
Oh man, probably the thing that's most misunderstood about me is. That's a good question. See, I told you, Roger, you should have sent me these questions ahead of time. I'd be more prepared.
No.
But let's see. I think I'm a nice guy, right?
Okay.
I'm the nice guy that I sometimes I try and be, and especially, and this is hard in business when you're trying. I found is sometimes I am too nice and I offer things that I just really can't do, and so sometimes I think I'm misunderstood that way, where someone thinks that I'm I don't know if that's the right thing. Well, I don't know what's most misunderstood about
hold on. No, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'll share with you what mine is.
Okay, yeah.
And this is something that I've had people share with me, and I know this about myself, is I'm intimidating.
Okay.
And oftentimes people misunderstand that to the point where they think I'm very distant and unapproachable.
Okay.
And so what's misunderstood, I feel, is I think I'm a fun guy, but I'm serious in like business settings. And so I treat business as business.
Yes.
So if you can get me to a social setting and something that's more, let's say, free-spirited, I have a lot of fun, but most of the people that I interact with are at a business level, and therefore they never see that side of me. Yeah. So they think I'm very serious, unapproachable, intimidating. Those are the things I know, and so I'm always sensitive to that. I'm always trying to. Okay, so here's the question: would you agree? Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I mean, because it's hard for me to agree on that now because I know you so well. But I'm thinking back, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I would agree with that. That you come across in the beginning as an intimidating, very, very business person, and the more I've gotten to know you, that you're just not like that. So I would say I'm the exact opposite. People in business think that I'm just very free-spirited and not serious, but I'm actually a serious business person.
Chris, when you get to work, do your thing. You're just too lax. Yeah, that's what it is. No, you're awesome. I think you're great. So, funny story on this. So, in my church, I was a teacher in one of the classes. Yeah. Okay, I'm teaching the adults. I'm each Sunday teaching a class, and in the class, I'd been teaching this for like 3-4 years. And a new neighbor moved into the neighborhood, and my wife had befriended the wife, and they were getting quite close with one another. The kids were playing together and everything. And so my wife and her said, well, let's get the couples together and do a couples date. And I learned this later on because we became phenomenal friends, like best friends with this couple, and we were doing a lot together, traveled, cruises, vacations, everything with families. Well, the funny thing about it is later I learned that the husband, when told of this first couple's date, said, we're doing what with who? With the teacher of the class? No, we don't want to. But that's because I was in like teach mode, right? I was like, serious, I'm running a class here. I've got stuff I've got to share. And so
this is actually a good point, because one of the things that I was taught in studying marketing, and some of the people that I follow is the importance of including personality in your marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that, people like working with people, not with, just a business.
And I struggle with that because, again, business to me is business. And so when I look at the whimsical, crazy stuff that people do to try and get noticed, that's not me.
Well, and you don't,
It's
and
hard.
and it doesn't, and you don't have to. That doesn't have to, like being including personality in your marketing doesn't always mean that type of thing, right? It's including your personality in your marketing.
Yeah.
Like, you are unique, and there's people that will gravitate to you and your personality and that they wouldn't to someone that's maybe more eccentric than you and out. So yeah.
Well, the way I'm sitting here with cufflinks, right? I'm kind of like the serious guy. When everyone's kind of down dressing, I'm the guy that held out and like dress down Fridays. No way. That's decades ago. For years, I was wearing suit and tie to work. I don't anymore. Don't have the tie. I haven't worn that in forever. But the point is this: I feel that when people are spending the money that they are with Universal in this case, I'm in a position where I feel I need to be serious and fulfill what they're hoping to achieve or accomplish, and I need to deliver on that. Well, I don't want to be indifferent and lackadaisical in my approach, but yet I'm kind of a nice guy. I'd like to think I'm a nice guy. So anyways, that's kind of funny. All right, here's the next question. What is your most favorite childhood memory?
My most favorite childhood memory is we go as a family to a place called Fish Lake. Creek is the exact place that we go.
Okay.
And which is kind of 20 minutes up the hill from Fish Lake, if people know where that is. But that's what I think of when I think of my childhood, is going there with my family. We would always rent a motorhome, and it seemed like, it's like a 2-hour drive, but as you're a kid, that feels just like this huge long drive. But it's always exciting to be in the motorhome. I have 6 siblings. And we just had a lot of fun. There's a home video of me they were driving up this mountain in the mountain motorhome, and I'm bouncing around on the bed in the back like I'm pretending like we're just going crazy on these crazy bumps. And that's what I think of as a childhood, is going to Creek, fishing at the creek with my grandpa, and hiking there, and it's just a fun family tradition that I believe my dad started. My grandpa started when my dad was young, and we've done it. We've even to this day, we still go to Fish Lake every year with our family. And it's
I
fun.
love it.
Spend a week down there.
The fact that you shared being in the bed of the truck, bouncing around. Yeah, I'm from the era of carpeted back beds, right, where you as a kid kind of played back there. Went to California in my dad's truck with the kids, myself in the back bed of the truck.
Oh, geez.
Laying down, no seatbelts. You're just laying down on the carpeted bed.
Different time back then.
Oh, totally different time. When was the last time you were in the back of a truck riding through the neighborhood? Yeah. Never. But
you can't even be in the back of a car without your seatbelt on. You got to have your seatbelt on.
Yeah, but I was a kid where in the neighborhood, everybody just jumped in the back of the truck and we just drove around the neighborhood. Yeah. Go to this, go to that. Yeah. All right, good. All right, give me a holiday movie, your favorite holiday movie. I guess you have to pick the holiday and then you pick the movie.
Yeah. Probably... the one that I can think of, it'd be Christmas, probably. Okay. And I really like Elf. I just think that's hilarious. I love comedy stuff. My wife likes to watch, is more like drama and that kind of stuff. I'll watch Seinfeld. Like anytime I've got some, I'll watch Seinfeld, or I'll watch something that's going to make me laugh. And I love Will Ferrell, so I think Elf is the one I would go with.
You're the second person that's actually brought up Elf as the favorite movie, especially for Christmas. Yeah, so it's. I almost want to say it's sequential. The last one was that. And what was curious about it is I shared that Will Ferrell isn't necessarily my favorite actor. It's not to say I dislike him. It's just I'm not drawn to him. There are definitely some funny things that he does. Like more cowbell, right? Yeah. And so there's a lot of good stuff. But Elf, I have to admit, there are so many classic scenes in Elf.
I love it.
One of them where he walks into the cafe and he's, "You did it!
Yeah.
You did it!" Yeah. So
if it wasn't Elf, I would say Christmas Vacation. Those are the two movies that I could watch every year and just never get sick of.
Yeah.
So those are fun.
Okay, so Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, or Christmas Story, which?
Ooh. Probably Christmas Vacation for me.
Really? I'd be the same. Yeah.
Christmas Story is fun. It was always such a quirky movie to me. And there was, and it's it's a classic, but I laugh a lot more in Christmas Vacation.
Definitely, definitely. One of the scenes that's reminding me of National Lampoon's is where the brother's wearing the dickie. Do you know what a dickie is? With I had one as a kid, where you wear the sweater and you have that turtleneck, right? And you've got the little dickie part of it. It's called a dickie, and I just thought, what the heck? And as a kid, but it's so funny in the movie because you see the outline of the actual dickie.
Yeah.
I think it's hysterical.
That's hilarious that you had one.
I had one as a kid. I wore one as a kid.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, that was that was awesome. All right, tell me about an influential person in your life that impacted you. Who is it and why?
I would probably say my dad. I'd have to say him. There's several people I could say that I'm thinking about right now, but I'd say my dad. My dad is just a solid guy, the best example of a trustworthy, hardworking, honest individual. So I've learned a lot of things from him, and he's the reason why I decided to become an entrepreneur. He's been an entrepreneur my entire life. When I was young, he had a vending company, which is pretty cool when your dad owns a company where he literally sells candy, and that's like
endless
all you think about when you're a
soda
kid,
and
just
candy.
Candy and soda, right? So I have a little 7-year-old that's literally like all he thinks about. But yeah, I would have to say my dad. He's just and by the way, my dad's my business partner today. I've worked with my dad for a long time.
Yeah.
When I started my agency back in 2012, he was the first person that I wanted to have as business partner because he's not only a good business mind, but he's just an honest, good person. So, yeah.
So I do know that you work with your father,
your
partners. What's unique about that dynamic? What would maybe be something that would be advice, perhaps?
It's funny. Like when I tell people I work with my dad, friends, especially people my age, a lot of them think, "Oh man, how could you do that? I could never work with my dad." And so working with family's tricky sometimes. But luckily, we get along pretty well. We've every now and then we have I'm much more like my mom than I am like my dad.
Okay.
And so it's funny. Sometimes I can see the arguments that we have is like the same arguments I see my mom and dad having sometimes, or like the way that I am. I'm so like just like get this done or get this fast, and he's more methodical and like no wait let's think about this and. So I don't know that I'd have to think about for a minute what advice I would give, because I think it's kind of easy for me because we get along so well. So I'm not sure I'm the best person to ask advice for that as far as working with family. But
all right. Well, no, you've done it for a long time.
Yeah.
You do obviously speak highly of your father. Yeah. You got a great business, and I've interacted with him some. So
maybe what I would say is this: when you work with family, a lot of times, especially like in this scenario, when we started the business, it was like we didn't really clearly define who was doing what. We were both kind of the chiefs, the boss, right?
Yeah. And
it was like and so I was doing things, he was doing other things, and sometimes we were like clashing that way. Like there just wasn't very clear expectations and who reports to who on what. And so maybe that's the piece of advice I would is especially if you're working with family and you've got a partner. Right, you have to define what responsibilities that partner's in charge of, what responsibilities this partner's in charge of, and some things I will report to him on, and some things he'll report to me on. You can set it up that way, and depending on what roles you're taking. But that's maybe the piece of advice I would give is when you are working with family as a partner, clearly define what roles are what, who's actually in charge of what.
Amen to that, and I will clarify that even further. I think it's important to, first of all, identify your strengths. Yeah. Why are you in business together? What's the advantage that each is bringing to the business? Once those strengths are identified, then determine, okay, who's doing what in the business, because you're going to magnify those strengths. And somebody might be better at marketing and sales. Somebody might be better at fulfillment. Somebody might be better at managing the cash, the numbers.
Yes.
Some people are typically better numbers people, and they can kind of articulate, okay, here's what we were doing last month. Here's what we need to do next month. They're able to work together because, like you're describing, the expectations are clear and you're leveraging the strengths of one another. And there needs to be, as you just last said, accountability.
Yeah, this is another really good topic that's phenomenally covered in the E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah.
I need to go back and read that book again. I'm talking a lot about it. He talks about that, about the importance of coming up with the structure and the hierarchy of your business. Mm-hmm. In fact, he gives an example, I think, of two brothers that are working together or something. And and he talks about discussing, like, first of all, you got to write out all the different positions that are needed, your CEO, your CFO.
Yeah, you do an org chart.
Organization chart.
Yep.
And then discussing, well, who's going to take which role and who's better, who's more suited for that role. And when I read that book, that was kind of like this light bulb moment. I'm like, man, this is what I've been missing with my dad's relationship early on in the beginning. We need to figure that out. And ultimately, we both agreed that he needed to be the CEO and not me. Like, he needed to be the ultimate decision maker on most things. But I was better at marketing. I was better at that part of it. So I got the position of VP marketing, right? So yeah, you got to figure that out and what positions you're going to fit best.
I love it. Love it. Give me a failure that you've had, and what did you learn from it? And it can be personal or business. Give me a failure.
Let's see here. Probably every time I launch a sales funnel is a failure, because when I remember. Okay, here's the first one. When I first started getting into online marketing, I had this dream of selling products in my sleep. I had a dream of like, I want to put up a product and create a sales funnel, get some ads going to it, and just have it sell. And there's literally nothing that I have to do. It's just it's an e-product, it's a digital product. And at the time I was doing loan modifications. This is back after 2008, after that crash happened. A lot of people were losing their homes, and so I based on what I was doing previously, I was able to transition into I got my loan officer license, and I started helping people modify their loans to be able to stay in their homes instead of let their home go to foreclosure. And I thought, all right, here's an opportunity. Like, I've learned and I've educated myself on how to negotiate these modifications with banks, and the reality is, with that sort of thing, you didn't even need to hire someone. You could do that yourself with the bank if you knew how to do it. I thought, well, I could create a digital product and teach people how to do this, and then they could save money. They wouldn't have to pay me $3,000 to do this for them. It was in my head. It felt like this really good idea. So I spent 6 months building out this whole thing, this whole training course, and this whole thing, and then I launched it. And just could never get it to work. Because just people didn't want to do. They wanted to pay someone to do that. They didn't want. And so I realized something that I wish I would have realized 6 months before I wasted 6 months of my life, was that before you start to market something, you should figure out if there's a market for it.
Yes.
And so that's probably the one that comes to my mind is just don't waste your time. Don't reinvent the wheel. Find something. If you're going to do something, find someone that's already been successful at it and model it. I think a lot of people think, oh man, nobody's doing this. I just had this brilliant idea. Nobody's doing this. I'm going to do it. And you might think, that's a really good idea because no one's doing it, no competition. But if nobody's doing it, it's probably because it doesn't work. So, I mean, yeah, you might have come up with this brilliant idea, but man, we live in a big world and a lot of people have tried a lot of things. And so the easiest route to success is finding someone that's already done what you want to do and proven it. They've already got the arrows in their back, right? And you can model what they've just model success. So that's my biggest lesson.
So one of the things I took from that is, in order to first start a business, you've got to have revenue, and you've got to do something that's obviously an easy fix. There's definitely a demand, therefore you can meet that demand and get paid for what service or product you're delivering. It's not to say the great entrepreneurial idea you have that is off the wall, out there in left field, that you can't do it. It's just, do you at least have something that can sustain your financial needs while you test something that might be off the wall? And you might hit a home run with something that's quirky, but is that where you put all of your eggs in that basket to feed your family and do everything? You've got to have something over here, and that's where you get.
Well, the other thing too that I learned is that not having that idea and testing that idea is not a bad thing. The mistake I made was spending 6 months on it before I tested, because there's you can be creative and you can figure out ways to test things before you spend a lot of time and effort on it. I have a friend that sold a supplement online to diabetics. And he was thinking, what's something that I could also, like an upsell that I could provide to them after they purchase that supplement. And so he he went. He first of all, actually, he went and looked at what some of his competitors were doing. They were selling like a cream, and so like a topical cream. And so he said, well, does that work for them? Maybe that would work for me. And so he, instead of like going through all the effort of like finding a company that then creating the formulation and creating his own cream, he just created a graphic of his own cream, of what his own cream would look like. Mm-hmm. Spent $20 on a graphic artist creating this graphic and 5 minutes of his life, and he put that on the sales page, the upsell page. And sure enough, it worked. And so when people would buy it, he would just buy his competitor's cream and send it to him. He said, they won't remember the name of the cream. They're going to get a cream, right? And so he would send his competitor's cream, but he was able to prove it really quickly. Hey, this works. Now I can spend my time and energy in actually creating that cream. So be a little bit more smart in that, and you can still test ideas.
I love that example. Now, that is, for a lot of people, counterintuitive.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm selling something that doesn't exist yet, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm offering something that I can't yet provide or do. But there's a lot of truth to that. I know of a number of people that do exactly that. They actually sell it, and in the case of education, I know of some, and they're competitors, not ourselves, but what they did is they would sell something as a curriculum, mm-hmm. and then they would promise, it's 4 weeks of X, let's say. Well, they didn't even worry about creating the curriculum until somebody bought it. And once somebody bought it, they produced week 1. Well, they didn't need to have week 2 until the person completed week 1. Yeah. And so they just promised a 4-week course and didn't worry about creating it until they actually had somebody buy it. And then it's like, oh, I guess I got to create week 1. Well, I don't have to worry about week 2 until that person finishes week 1. So
it's a great way to force you to get something done too, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
When someone's already paid for it, like, oh, I'm on the clock here. I got to get this done.
Exactly. So I know that's been done. It's not anything that we've done at Universal Accounting, but I do know of some competitors that have done specifically that just because of conversations I've had. And that's a risk to sell something that doesn't technically exist yet, but they're obviously on the hook once it's sold to then deliver. But it's definitely testing, right?
Yeah.
Does the market...
And you could even be upfront about something like that, right? And you could say, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing these as live trainings, and you can record them as you go and turn it into a product. But yeah, there's certainly, it's just being a little bit more smarter with your time instead of just jumping into something really quick. Now, if it's something that's already proven, that someone else has already proven and you're modeling it, no problem. You don't have to worry about it. But especially new ideas, test them before you spend 6 months of your life on it.
I love it. Okay, so here's a related question. I'm going to kind of transition here. One of the things that I think you can help us understand, and one of the things that a lot of accounting professionals would like to know more about, is this whole idea of online and virtual bookkeeping and selling services to a client that may be virtual, you're not necessarily near or going to meet with one-on-one. So I brought a book. It's one that you're familiar with, one that I'm familiar with, .com Secrets, and it's one that is a great way to mentally get your head around this whole process of selling online. This particular book is one that a lot of people now create businesses around, and it's this whole idea of funnel marketing. So I've got a few highlights here that I'm going to pull from, and I just want to get your insights. He speaks here of a secret, let's say, formula. He calls it that. It's on page 15 of the book. He speaks of it being made up of 4 things. Who's your dream client? We kind of addressed it at the very beginning, knowing your ideal client, your avatar. Second is, where can you find them? Yes. And that's kind of the next big question. Once you know who you're selling to, who you feel would resonate with the product or service you're offering, where do you find them? And he talks here about, obviously, finding them online. And what are some of the natural places that you can market online, do ads, find people? What are some of those natural places? Yeah, so the exciting thing is we live in a time where it's really easy and even more affordable than it used to be to get in front of the right people, right? So I'm very familiar with this book, by the way. He talks about the finding your audience. I'll give you examples. Facebook groups is a really good one. Especially if you're niching down, you're trying to get in a specific niche. There's a ton of Facebook groups with those niches, right? Mm-hmm. So Facebook groups are one. LinkedIn, of course, is an easy one. Facebook ads, that's like one of my go-to things that I recommend for like most businesses starting out. The old days you would have to put up a billboard and pay $3,000 a month to show this billboard. But you couldn't really tell the billboard who to show your ad to. You just had to pay for it, and everybody saw it, and you hope that enough of the right people saw it. Well, nowadays you can go to Facebook, you can spend $5 on an ad, and you can say,
I want to show my ad to someone that's between the ages of 55 and 64 that's a business owner that makes $150,000 a year. You could like just narrow down your audience, right, and get your ad in front of the exact right person. And the better you can be at getting, especially when it comes to paid ads, the better you can be at getting your ad in front of the right person, the easier your marketing is going to be, because you're going to spend less money to acquire that customer, and we know that's the name of the game, right? But hopefully that answers your question. Some areas, Facebook groups, LinkedIn, Instagram.
One of the things that I've learned is when you're a smaller business, you can't afford to do what's called TOMA, top of mind marketing.
Yeah.
It's not brand marketing that you're doing. You have to do marketing that has a call to action and an easy way for them to achieve that call to action. So having a billboard, it's like you're driving past. How do you remember what that is?
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I literally heard a radio advertisement for a podcast, and that podcast struck my interest, but I was driving. I had no place to write it down. And honestly, as I'm sitting here, I cannot remember what it is. I'm like, oh my heavens, I've got to pay more attention to it when I hear it again. But if it's an ad, it literally allows you on the internet to click on it and take you where you want to be. And that ease of taking that next step makes it a lot better on the internet. So the ad becomes a lot more affordable because you get actions. Yeah. Here's the next thing. The third step in this formula is what bait will you use to attract them? In other words, you've got their attention with the ad, but it's not enough that they see the ad. They need to act. And what we're hoping to acquire is some contact information. We need to get something from them so that we can later nurture them.
Yes.
So there's this bait. Tell us about the bait.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is a direct response type marketing where it's laser focused. We have a goal in mind. It's not just like you say top of mind. It's we're after their name, email, and phone number. Yeah. So we can then nurture them, follow up with them. And so there's a lot of baits, hooks, if you will, that you can test and use. And I would encourage a business owner to always be throwing out new baits and new hooks to test them, because you never know what's going to work. But one that does work very easily, it's a very easy one, is just using what we call I call it a voucher funnel. Some people call it a discount funnel, where it's thinking, okay, I know my target audience needs bookkeeping. What can I put out there to get them to take action, to say, hey, like I'm going to take a leap of faith on you. I'm going to give you my name, email, and phone number. So some hooks will be like a lead magnet, like a free ebook or a free book or a free video, and those are good. Those can bring people into your world, right? You can have a big wide net. But the other thing you want to think about with your hook is, or with your bait is, what type of person is this bringing in, right? If I give away a free book on how to build your business, like that's going to bring in, I know it's going to bring in a business owner, because a business owner is not going to want to get a book about building their business, right? Or a non-business owner is not going to want to do that. Yeah. I know it's going to be someone that wants to build their business. I don't know for sure that it's someone that needs bookkeeping right now, right? And so if on the other hand, if I throw out some bait that says, hey, get 50% off, come test me out. Let me prove to you that I can provide a fantastic bookkeeping service for you. I'll give you your first 3 months for 50% off. Lower your risk. Come and let me prove to you that we're a good fit. If someone takes that bait, and let's say I'm giving away 37 vouchers for 50% off my services a month. Try me out. I'm so confident, right, that I can do a good job, that I'm willing to do that. Someone that gets that bait, that takes that voucher, I know they need bookkeeping services. They wouldn't have put in their information if they didn't need bookkeeping services, right? And so that's something that I like to think about when I'm doing my bait, is what type of person is that bringing into my world, and how close are they to the sale? And so that's in my recommendation is that's where you should start, is some type of bait like that. Now you're going to get to the point where you're going to need to kind of widen your net and bring and you're going to have more money to spend and do more creative things with your marketing. Then you can start putting in those funnels that are bringing in, like the business owner, that they're a business owner. You don't know that they need bookkeeping yet, but they are business owners, so you know they need bookkeeping. They might not be ready for that yet, but you're bringing them in with this big net, and you're nurturing them, and you've got some nurturing stuff happening, and they're gonna and eventually, when they do need bookkeeping, who are they going to think of? They're going to think of you, that's been providing them all this good information and building your relationship with them along the way.
Yeah, the thing that I think is interesting about the bait is, just like you said, different things appeal to different individuals.
Yes.
You've got to know who your target market is, your ideal client, your avatar, so that you can create the bait that they want. Are you chumming them? Are you actually giving out the worm or the fly? What do they want? Well, it depends on what you're trying to catch. But the thing that I've always kind of defaulted to is there are two types of people, if we're going to categorize them. Some want to know that they're getting something for less than what everyone else in the marketplace is getting. They want to save. They want to have that lower cost, and therefore that risk financially is to them less than normal. And the fact that they saved helps them feel better about that decision. So if you can offer a way for them to save, a lot of people are drawn to, hey, I got something that everyone else is paying full price for, and I'm saving, I feel good about this. The opposite would be somebody that's willing to pay the same price as everyone else, but they're getting more than everyone else. They're getting something for free, additional value, additional services, and all of a sudden, they're willing to pay the price because they're getting more than everyone else gets. And so if you can appeal to your audience with one of those two type of tests, you can determine, okay, what is the best bait to bring someone in? And so it has to be a good exchange for the name, phone number, email. But a lot of people are willing to do, like you were describing, a free book, white paper, a report, some test, savings, like you were saying with the voucher. I like all of those. I'm going to jump to another one. You kind of alluded to it, and it's a ladder. We've talked about funnels here, the whole idea of that. Tell us about what a ladder is in the marketing scheme of things.
Yeah, so a value ladder, I'm sure a lot of your audience knows what a value ladder is, but for those that don't, let's see if I can explain this without, normally I'm drawing it on a whiteboard, but on a value ladder, on the bottom axis, you would have price, and on the left axis going up, you'd have value.
Yeah.
So if you imagine like a staircase going up, at the bottom left corner, you've got, the top right corner, you've got your high ticket services that you're providing, right? Maybe whatever that is. If that maybe in the beginning that's just your $500 per month bookkeeping service that you ultimately want to be selling. Well, the mistake that a lot of people make is they lead their marketing with the top of their value ladder, with what they really want to sell, and that's a normal thing to do, right? We want money. Most business owners want to make the most money, and they want to provide the most value. That's what they want to do, and so they think, okay, I'm just going to do that. The problem though is it's like the old cliche, you wouldn't ask someone to marry you on the first date, right? And so and that's an obvious one, but that we all clearly understand. And yet, as business owners, a lot of times we're leading our marketing with marriage type offers right off the bat. And so the idea behind a value ladder is basically the concept of is leading your marketing with something that's lower cost, might not be as high not going to be as high value, but it makes an easy decision for someone to take their first step with you. Whether that's whether the first step is giving you just their name, email, and phone number, or whether the first step is actually giving you money for a lower cost service that you can provide that's kind of a easier decision for them. They don't have to commit to $500 a month. Maybe it's just a one-time thing that you're bringing them into your world on this bottom end of the value ladder, but then immediately you're looking for ways of how can you provide more value, right? So if you bring someone in on a free lead magnet, what's the next step that I could get them to take to provide a little bit more value and get a little bit more money from them? And you walk them up that value ladder to the point where you really want. And some people will never get there, but there's a percentage of people that will ascend that value ladder and end up on your $500 a month bookkeeping services or your $1,500 a month consulting services, or whatever that is for you. And the number you have to look at is the averages, right?
Yep.
You don't get hung up on the people that are just the tire kickers. You're gonna have people that take you up on a low price offer or something low, and they never ascend your value ladder. But the other people that do make it all work.
Yeah. The way I would also add to that is, imagine if you had 100 people that you were bringing to the staircase, and this value ladder began with something that was inexpensive, easy, and of the 100 people, 50 saw it as value enough to give their name and number. So all of a sudden, 50% of them take that first step, right? Well, it's not that they ran up the staircase and got to the top. It's now, what can you do to offer them something that next appeal, maybe that the 50% or the 50 people that took that first step that say 20 of them go to the next step,
Yeah.
right? And they're willing to pay for a one-time service, something that's good value, a single cost, no long-term commitment, but it's a single purchase. Well, now they get to that level. Well, of those 20 people that experience that one service, that single transaction, of that, let's say you get 10 or 5 of them that are willing to then make an engagement that's long-term. Well, of the 5 people that make that long-term engagement, let's assume that 1 or 2 are willing to pay for your big ticket item, the full services that you provide and offer. Well, you started with 100 and you ended with 1 or 2 that are buying the full thing. But look at everybody that did transactions along the way with you as well.
Exactly.
And those that are midway along those stair steps, you get to nurture them, and eventually they'll trickle up the stairs, right? And so that's the whole idea of it. So just to illustrate this, just yesterday we were coincidentally talking, and Kevin, we were talking about Kevin. Kevin has a funnel that you've built for him.
Yeah.
It's an accounting funnel to get bookkeeping clients. He's been running the funnel, if I remember, for 3 weeks.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks, something like that.
2-3 weeks, and in the 2-3 weeks, he was
Got his
able
first
yesterday.
client. Yeah.
First client.
I'm excited about for him.
Yeah, so here he is taking a funnel that works. He's implementing it, and within 2-3 weeks, he's seeing the success that we would expect him to see.
And what's crazy about this is this is his first time running a funnel and an ad like this, right?
Yeah.
And it's really fun to see that happen for people, because I think I see so many business owners that struggle trying to figure out how to make the online marketing thing work for their business. And here he is, he gets his funnel, he puts it up, spends, I think he said he spent $125 in ads is all. He's already got a bookkeeping client out of it. And I should have asked him what the contract is, but at least $300, $400, $500 a month, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And man, it took him $100 in ads to do that.
Yeah,
So the point here is don't feel like you got to reinvent the wheel. In fact, I'm doing a training right now that you're well aware of, where I'm teaching business owners how to do this on this webinar, how to use a voucher funnel to capture the lead, and then how to use automation to follow up with that lead and get them booked for their first appointment. And once you have that structure in place, now it's just a matter of getting traffic to it. Like for him, his funnel's done now. I showed him how to build it. In fact, we built it for him. He purchased a package that we sold. We built the funnel for him, built the automation for him. He just had to go in there and do some quick changes.
Just branding,
change his logo and change the name in there. And then all he did was follow the Traffic Made Easy course that I'm offering on that thing. And just watch the course, literally it's just an over the show. I swear like a 12-year-old could do this if you just told him to watch this. But he just followed that, got his campaign running. I was really impressed too. I talked to him like a week later. He's like, "Oh yeah, I already got my Facebook ad up. I got my pixel done." I'm like, "Dude, you're awesome." And then he got his first client. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing I like about it is the fact that you're saying it clearly. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And the beauty of what you're offering is, here's this turnkey funnel. It works.
Yes.
And you're basically saying, let's brand it to you, use the same funnel, and you get your clients. And we go to the next accountant, bookkeeper, and boom, it's brand it, use it, done.
There's so many different things that you could do. There's so many different funnels you could do, and there's a lot of gurus out there teaching different things. And I'm sure there's a lot that work. But don't get distracted. I'm showing you in this training the easiest. It took me a long time to figure this out, but this is the easiest way to do it. There's a lot of other ways to do it, and that's the main client or question I get asked from from accountants or any business owners. How do I get more clients? Just do this. It might seem simple, but just do. I promise you, it'll work. Just follow the steps and it'll work.
So another one, tax. Jenny, you got the tax funnel.
Yeah.
Here we are. We're trying to get tax clients. Tell us about that.
So Jenny owns a franchise, an accounting franchise, and anyway, she came to me, and this was like 3 weeks before tax day, and she said, "Hey, she had some stuff going on in her life. She says, I need to get more tax clients, and I've got 3 weeks to do it." She says, So the first question I asked her is, "Do you have a list of previous tax clients that we could reach out to?" And she said, "Yeah, but I've already sent them an email and sent out an email. I didn't really get much of a response." And so the first thing that we did was I just said, "Well, okay, let's put together a little better sequence with using a text message instead of an email, and let's come up with an offer." Like before, it was just like, "Hey, if you need your taxes done, call me." I said, "Well, no, let's come up with a good offer." I said, "Well, are you running any offers in your business right now? Have you ever run any offers?" And she says, "Oh yeah, the franchise, all the franchises, we run a 20% offer." I said, "Okay, well, cool." And so let's when we're reaching out to our list, let's use that offer. And what I found, by the way, that works best when you're deciding what your offer should be is I said, "Well, what do you normally charge for your taxes?" And I think it was now my mathematician skills are going to show here. But basically, it equated to $50 off to what she offered, right? So I said, well, $50 off sounds better than 20% off. The higher number always sounds better, whether it's dollar off or percentage. Go with the bigger number. In my testing, that's always works better. So I said, let's change up the offer a little bit. Let's just say it's $50 off personal or $100 off business taxes. We sent that out with a text message this time. We did 2 texts, one day and then one the next day. And she just got a tremendous response from it. She was like, "Holy cow! Like this is the missing piece." So the 1 was the offer, and the 2 was the texting versus the email. But she only had a list of 200 people, so that and most of them had already got their taxes done.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like it brought in a flood of business, but she got quite a bit of business from it. So then the next step was, well, okay, let's take this offer and let's create a funnel. I just recommended we do the voucher funnel.
Yep.
So we put the voucher funnel in place. We ran the ad for 2.5 weeks. She got 60 new clients in 2.5 weeks. She was ecstatic about it. She was like, "Holy cow!" The franchise has a marketing company that runs Facebook ads for them, and she's run ads on that and not got a single lead from it, let alone a client. In this case, she got it was like 57 clients in 2.5 weeks.
Yep.
And what's neat with that, is she spent $500 in ads. She brought in a little over $12,000 in revenue. But all of those people are going to be tax clients for next year.
Yep.
Especially because she's going to send out a text a lot earlier than 3 weeks before tax day.
Correct.
Right. And also, I know that a lot of those people have turned into other business for her, like other. Setting up LLCs or I think maybe even some bookkeeping stuff came out of it. But yeah, it was pretty cool for her to see just how well that works. And it's because she didn't try to invent the wheel. I just showed her, here's what works for other people. Just do the same thing.
I think those are 2 excellent examples of using the funnel and the ladder approach to literally, with the vouchers you were explaining, go out there to the market and get bookkeeping and accounting clients online. It's just a testament to the fact that it works. It's just a matter of now implementing that same strategy in your business, and that's where you're doing that webinar. So definitely invite everyone to participate in that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Go check out the webinar. It's getclients.universalaccounting.com, if I remember right.
That's right.
I just show you in the webinar. I show you exactly what we did with Jenny and what we did with Kevin, and just the whole process. You don't even have to purchase the package. I just teach you how to do it. But at the end, I do offer a package to have it just done for you, pretty much. It's more of a done with you type thing. But it's an easy process. And the 2 things that really helped Jenny, or the one thing I should say is having an offer. Like whenever someone comes to me and says, "Hey, my marketing campaign isn't working," it's almost always the offer. Usually it's that they don't have an offer. It's like, "Hey, we've been in business for 50 years. You choose us, right? Use us." And the offers are what get people to take action.
That's right. You have to have a call to action.
Yep.
It has to be clear, and depending on where they are on that ladder, where you are in your interactions with them, whether it needs to be a low and expensive one or something else that they can maybe move up on.
The other thing with the voucher funnel, there's a couple things that I like about that funnel, why it works. One is it's easy to do an offer, easy to get people who are close to the sale, but it's also easy to include some urgency in the offer, which is important. Like if you can make it look urgent, that someone needs to take action now. That's a huge part of making us a campaign successful.
Perfect. I love it. All right, got some other questions for you. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Shoot.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Hawaii.
Why?
I love the laid back feeling in Hawaii, and just I could go to the beach every day. So I've been to Hawaii 3 times, been to Oahu a couple times, and went to what's the other island that I'm not thinking of? It starts with an M.
Maui.
And I just love it there. I love the feeling of the people there. I could also live maybe in, I don't know if I could live. I served a mission for my church in the Dominican Republic, and I loved it there too. I don't know that I could live there my whole life though.
So here's the thing, living in Hawaii, I don't know that I could do it.
Really?
I love Hawaii, don't get me wrong, but I learned from someone that you don't want to live where you vacation.
See, I could do it. I could my whole life could be a vacation. I could do that.
So I've got an uncle. He lived there for a few years, and he went there and he lived on the beach.
Yeah.
And so he would wake up every morning, go out, swim. He would actually catch his fish for lunch.
Oh, wow.
I
See,
mean,
that's awesome.
it was awesome. Yeah,
See, I could get into the life of waking up in the morning, going and surfing in the morning, getting good at surfing, and just then come back and work. Then I could get into that life.
You totally did it. Yeah, you totally did it. All right, here's the next question. If you could have coffee or breakfast with any person, living or dead, who would it be and why?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Probably Seinfeld.
Seinfeld.
The reason I'm saying that is because of his coffee and cars, and you mentioned coffee.
Yeah.
I told you I'm someone that likes to laugh.
Yes.
And so I enjoy conversations with people that I can laugh with. It's one of the reasons I like talking to you, because we do laugh. And
Thank you.
So you most people would probably give a better answer than that, Gandhi or something. or something.
Jerry Seinfeld.
I had a fun time talking to Jerry.
There's a plug for Jerry Seinfeld. There you go. I love it. So is there anything particular that you would like to learn or ask Jerry?
Yeah, I would. I'd love to ask him just kind of what. I mean, I think you see people that have sometimes you see people that have a lot of success and you think, oh, it just fell in their lap, but most cases it's probably not the case. And so I'd love to just ask him how he, because what he did was pretty incredible, like building that the show that he did, and
the show about nothing.
Yeah, the show about nothing, and how huge it became. And
because everyone could identify with nothing.
So I would just ask him the story behind all that, really, like, because I know they kind of tell the story in one of the episodes, but there's probably a story behind that story that I'd love to know.
A story behind the story.
My wife always laughs how much, like, I have literally for Christmas one year I got the whole trilogy of Seinfeld and everything. So I'm a big Seinfeld fan. I like to laugh.
I love it.
And Seinfeld is.
What's your favorite episode?
Oh man, I don't know if I can give you a favorite episode, but
I'm out.
I seriously, like, they're all my favorite. Seriously, my wife will tell you, like, I quote it Seinfeld all the time, and I could and whenever we watch it, she can tell I've seen it a million times, because I could just tell you what's coming up. But it's still entertaining.
All right, no soup for you. Okay.
Got man hands.
All right. So there's so many good ones in there, but I'll just stop at the two. Okay. Favorite trip to where and why?
Probably. Oh man, a couple one come to mind. When I was young, I don't like to admit this, but I was in a performing group. I was like it wasn't necessarily a boy band, but it was. I
was going to say, what do you mean by
group.
Performing group? Like an a cappella group, a rock band?
And,
we're talking long hair, or what are we talking?
No, this is like when I was in like fifth, sixth grade when I started this. We
impressing the girls in
singing
fifth grade.
and dancing group, and at the time I was really into baseball and soccer, and my mom, I don't know why she really wanted me to do this other singing thing in this group. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to do that. I want to keep playing soccer, keep playing baseball. And then she said they're going to Japan, and they're going to perform at an amusement park for a week, and they're going to fly on a jumbo jet. That was really what got me, was the jumbo jet.
Okay,
I'm like,
gotcha.
I want to fly on a jumbo jet. And so I joined this group, and it ended up being I was in it for like 5 or 6 years, and I really enjoyed it. And
wow.
But we went to Japan when I was in like sixth grade.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. I still have really like vivid memories of that trip going. We stayed at this Suzuka Circuit, which is like it's an amusement park owned by Honda. It's around this famous or around a race course there called the Suzuka Circuit.
Okay.
And here I am, like in sixth grade, singing and it's like over there the girls thought that we were like rock stars over there. Like the girls would be asking for autographs, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. But it was but that experience was fun, and also just seeing the culture. And I still remember going to certain. In fact, my brother was just over in Japan for the Olympics, and he was showing me some pictures of stuff that he visited, and I'm like, man, I've been there. I saw that. I remember seeing that, and like this really cool building where they've got the water coming down, and it's like this. You stick this thing out, and you capture water, and you drink out of this thing. Okay. Everybody drinks out of it. It's like you get like there's 3 of them. Like one gives you longer life, and one gives you like a more abundance or whatever. And so I don't know that I would do that now, like drinking out of the same cup that millions of other people are just drinking out of. But I remember just seeing some of the cool culture there, and that was a really fun trip. So that's probably the one I would say. If it's not that one, it would be my honeymoon in the Dominican Republic. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, very good.
So
I like those two. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm going to ask you some specifics, so you got to put your thinking cap on for this. Give me 2 or 3 books you would highly recommend, and why the books?
Well, the E-Myth Revisit is one.
That's come up today.
We've been talking
obviously
about that already, so that's one. .com Secrets. We've talked about that. That's actually the first book. When anyone's trying to get into marketing, online marketing, that's the first one that I recommend to them. So those two, and then a third one that I would recommend. I want to say Russell's other book that I really like, Traffic Secrets.
Okay. Yeah.
That's another really good book that he covers some important topics that he doesn't cover in .com Secrets. So probably those three are ones that I would recommend. There's a lot of other good books I can think of.
All right, 3 favorite movies and why?
3 favorite movies. So first one I would have to say Princess Bride. That's always been
I love that.
One of my favorites since I was a child. Second one probably Gladiator.
Oh, that's good.
I just love that story.
Yeah.
And then
that's Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe, yeah. I love
that.
That's
a very
story.
Good movie.
And then the third one, geez, what would be the third one? Maybe 300. I like that.
300.
Yeah,
wow, I didn't see that coming. I like that movie though.
I just like that.
300's good.
I like the story of people overcoming like insurmountable things, right?
Spartans.
Yeah, the story of the Spartans, and
Yeah.
This is Sparta, and he kicks the guy. It was a cool scene there, but I just like those storylines of people that overcome hard things.
Yeah. Okay. Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Marriage. Yeah. So give me a scene out of that. What's one of your favorite scenes?
Oh man, there's so many in that one, but I love when they're storming the castle and and Wesley's like, what are our assets? You know, it's like they just brought him back from death.
That's right.
Sitting up at the top of this castle, they're looking down. There's like double the guards that they thought they were going to have, and they're trying to figure out how the heck are we going to break into this castle. He asks Physique, what are our assets? And Physique pulls out this cloak, and he's like, why didn't you say that we had that? Like, changes everything. And so they come up with this idea of using the cloak to pretend like they're the Dread Pirate Roberts. But, oh, man, there's so many quotes of that in that movie, or scenes that I love in that movie.
You're a witch. I'm not a witch.
I'm not a witch. I'm your wife.
I love that show. That is so good. I'm glad you brought that one up. All right. Podcasts. Do you listen to them?
Yeah.
Would you recommend any?
Lately, I've been listening to the Joe Rogan podcast like everyone else. I find it entertaining. But Business Wars is one of my favorite podcasts.
Good.
Have you listened to Business Wars?
I've not.
Oh man, you got to listen to it. So in Business Wars they talk about like two or three competing businesses, and they tell the story behind it, like Pepsi versus Coke, Nike versus Adidas. I really like listening to Netflix versus Blockbuster and hearing the whole backstory on that. And oh man, I think for any business owner, that might be your new favorite podcast is Business Wars. That's what I'm listening to a lot right now. And then when I just want entertainment, it's Joe Rogan.
All right. And I've got to put a plug in for building the premier accounting
and
firm.
then building. Oh yeah, that's my top.
There you go. All right.
I just thought that went without saying.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, there you go. All right. So, what is one question you wish I would have asked you that I've not asked yet?
Oh man. I don't know that. What would you say? I'm curious what you would say if I was. What's the one question you would have me ask you?
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Okay, thank you. What is the question that I wish people would ask me?
You didn't know I was going to turn it around on you, did you?
No, you didn't. And I'm gonna actually answer it. I wish people would be willing to ask questions that are more life or relationship based.
Yeah.
I think so much of business is relationship oriented. So much of life is relationship with our spouses, our children. And it's I think curious to me what advice people have as to, what do you think makes a good relationship? How can I have a better relationship with my children? Because we're all living life. We all have experience that we can say, if I were to do it again, my advice would be this. It's kind of like fatherly advice, but it's like humanity advice. Yeah. I'm a human, you're a human. I've lived this experience, you're living it. My advice to you is, because they'll get to like the century, the people at 100 years old. You're 100 years old, what advice do you have? Yeah. And honestly, at that age, I think the answers they give are pathetic. It's whatever, and it's like you're asking a person that's probably senile what they think the success to life is.
Yeah.
So every so often I'll get somebody that's pretty on their game at 100 years old, give some pretty sound advice. But yeah, somebody that's 30, 50, what do you have to tell me?
Yeah.
Those are the types of questions I wish people would ask me, because I do have advice. I think I'm very conscious of my relationships, and I try to be deliberate, if anything. So I've not had, at least from my youth, the lasting relationships that I thought I would or could. And so I've deliberately tried to, as I've gotten older, put more into relationships because I value them. I see the worth of them. But whether or not the recipients on the other end feel that I'm invested, I don't know. But
yeah.
I don't know.
So
Just some
okay,
thoughts.
you made me think that maybe that's what I would say is ask me about my family and what really motivates me, because that's what I'm most excited about in life is my family. And a question that I would ask you that I'm glad you didn't ask me.
Okay, thank you for that setup.
Maybe
all
the
right.
one question that I'm glad you didn't ask.
All right.
is what do you do to because as a business owner and someone that does a lot, that business is a big part of your life, what do you do to make sure and keep that separate from family, and that your work life doesn't bleed too much into your family life?
Oh, that is a
that's
great
something
question.
I'm still trying to figure out.
Great question. See, I know you work from home.
Yep.
And so my answer is going to maybe kind of tiptoe into that.
Yeah.
I'm a workaholic.
Yeah, me too.
I don't mind working at all. I enjoy working. I find a great deal of satisfaction working.
Yeah.
I think I'm good at the work I do.
Yeah.
And so it's very fulfilling. So it's very addictive to the point that I could either push away or procrastinate other responsibilities that I have. And so years ago, I learned the most valuable thing of being present. If I'm at home, I'm at home. Mm-hmm. I try very much not to bring work home. I don't open my computer at home. I have a laptop. Mm-hmm. And so I intentionally, when I'm home, I'm at home. When I'm with my wife, I'm with my wife. When I'm with my children, I'm with my children. I believe very much in quality of time.
Is that hard for you to do? Or has it become easy?
It's now very easy.
Okay.
I'm able to stop and smell the roses now.
Okay,
I'm
good.
able to enjoy the moment. And it's simply because I've become disciplined that when I'm in a setting, I complete what's going on with that before moving on. Because I don't want to carry something that I'm dealing with here to the next scenario.
Yes.
And when I'm also in this scenario, I don't want to be thinking about the next one coming. I want to complete this one. And so vacations, very much deliver on vacations. In fact, my most favorite type of vacation was cruising, because you'd go out into the middle of the ocean, the Gulf and so forth. And at the time, you didn't have access to internet. Now you can get an internet package, which I won't pay for, because I want that disconnect. I don't want to be connected, and I learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
So, and where I'm a workaholic as I am, I need something to sever that. So my most favorite place to go is our family cabin. We have a cabin, and there's no electricity, there's no running water, and where it's at in the mountain, I don't have cellular reception.
Yeah.
So even if I have my phone on, it doesn't work. So I turn my phone off. And so when I'm up there, it's remote, it's secluded, and I'm able to just honestly enjoy nature at that point.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, we there's a couple places we vacation where we didn't have phone service, and I enjoyed it. And now there's phone service, and part of me is like, cool, I can get phone service here. Now the other part's like, oh man,
I turn it off.
Now it's even harder for me to leave work behind.
Yeah, so I'll bring friends up to the cabin, and don't get me wrong, I love music, but some of them will break out maybe a little sound bar type thing or music.
Yeah.
And the music's good. I like the music. It's good.
Yeah.
But I prefer the quiet.
Yeah.
And some of them will actually bring up their phones, and when we're sitting there, they'll get on their phone because they have a different service and they have connection. Or they'll, at night when we're wrapping things up, you'll see them as they're going to bed, they'll pull out the movie and start streaming something on Netflix. I'm like,
this is not the experience.
What are you doing? Because that's just not the way. That's not why I go up there. I go up there to experience something different.
Yeah.
So, anyways, okay. So you brought up family. Yes, I would like to ask about your family, and we may get there a little bit further. But you just recently had a newborn.
Yes.
How has that changed your family dynamic?
So this is our fourth kid. You've heard of Jim Gaffigan, right?
Yeah.
You heard his bit about having. I think it's a fourth kid that he talks about, right?
I know him, but I don't know this particular routine. No.
So he just says, well, do you want to know what it's like, what it feels like having a fourth kid? Well, sure. it's like, imagine that you're drowning and then someone hands you a baby. That's what it's like. No, this as our fourth child, we've got my oldest is Paige, she's 9, and girls, boy, girl, boy. So we've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and now our new little, he's almost about 2 months now.
Yeah.
And we've been fortunate enough to have healthy babies, healthy kids, and our new baby Cooper, he threw us for a little bit of a loop.
Yeah, he did.
The second day he just stopped breathing, and turns out we thought he had everything went well day 1, day 2, halfway through the day everything's normal, and then the next thing you know we're in the NICU and our babies, they don't know what's going on with him. Every 15 seconds or 15 minutes he stops breathing. We thought for like a week he had meningitis, and I didn't know much about meningitis, but you start to research and you always start to think the worst, right?
Yeah.
He's like always going to be blind or deaf or have brain issues. And after about a week, it was 10 days actually, we found out that it wasn't meningitis. He had a very small ischemic brain injury, and we got the news from the neurologist that it's so small that he won't have any other issues with it. It was like kind of like surreal, like after a week of being in the darkest place that you can think of, thinking the worst, and then all of a sudden, hey, everything's gonna be okay. So he's doing really well right now, and I think, looking back, I would not want to go through that again, but it's experiences like that make you kind of just realize what's important in life, and it makes it. And it came at a time where in my business, at a very stressful time in my business, I just have a lot going on, and I've been a little overwhelmed and stressed, and that experience actually kind of helped me like realize, hey, it's this is business and it's important, but there's other things that are more important in life, and gives you a little more perspective when you go through things like that. So love my family. I love spending time with them. It is a challenge for me to keep work separate, because it's the physical stuff is easier for me. Like I'm just gonna not open my laptop. A long time ago I told my wife 5 o'clock I'm gonna just stop, even though that's kind of sometimes I bleed past that. But it's hard for me to be present, like you said. Yeah. Like I'm always thinking like about business stuff or what needs to happen, and so that's something that I'm always working on. Yeah. That is just how can I be more present with my kids? How can I be more present with my wife? And when I do, it's a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah. One, thank you for sharing that. I remember you're going through that. It was very painful, and it was hard, and I'm glad it turned out so far as it has. Yeah. I'm glad that you've been blessed that way. The reset that you're talking about, it's good to have those periodically. Recently for me, it was going to a funeral. Mm-hmm. You go to a funeral and it does kind of reset some of the priorities. It's like, okay, we're all going to die. Yeah. And what is our legacy? What is it that I've done that's made a difference, that's made the world a better place, that when I leave it, hopefully people are glad I was in it, right? So I totally get that. I've got another question for you. This is going to be a little different though. Okay. We're going to go deep on this one. Okay. So we're going to see how it is. I'm going to have 4 topics. Okay. You get to pick which we're going to go down.
Okay. Choose your own adventure style here?
This is choose your adventure, okay. All right?
Okay.
First one's faith.
Okay.
Second one, current events.
Okay.
Family.
Okay.
Last, workaholic versus balanced life.
Ooh, let's do, it's a toss-up between faith and current events. I'll pass to you. Do you want to talk about faith or current events?
Oh, wow.
Let's talk about current events.
Current events. Okay, done. Is there anything particular that's in the news that's really of interest to you?
Geez, maybe we shouldn't talk about current events too. Maybe we're going to get a little polarity here.
No. It's good. That's what I want. Let's get some spice into this.
It's kind of fun. Lately, I've kind of tuned out to current. Like normally, I'm really tuned in and I'm really paying attention to what's going on. Lately, I've had to just purposely tune out because I got so much stuff that I'm focusing on and trying to be focused on. But what's happening? I think what's happening in our country right now, where things like socialism are becoming more normal, is a scary thing to me. Yeah. I'm such a believer in true capitalism and being able to and not the feeling of or not thinking that you just deserve things because you exist, right? So that what's going on in our country with that, what I'm thinking about a lot lately with current events is what they're teaching in schools. My kids, it's not something I've ever worried about, especially living where we live here in Utah. I haven't had to worry about that, but now I'm starting to realize I need to be more aware of what my kids are being taught in school. And there's certain things that I'm finding out that are being taught that I'm concerned about, you know. There was a recent story just here locally. I don't know. Do you remember that? Did you hear? I probably shouldn't bring it up because I don't know the details, but maybe you do, and maybe you could help me out. But about a teacher in Draper that was let go for bringing something up. Do you know the details about that story? I don't know.
I know of one in Lehigh. So
or maybe it was Lehigh.
It was Lehigh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had brought up a number of things, and the student happened to record what she was saying at the front of the class.
Yes.
And so it's on video, and she's bringing up very specific things. But one of the phrases that she said in there that I think just was the nail in the coffin to her career was she specifically said to the students in the classroom, your parents, don't believe them, don't trust them, don't listen to them.
They just don't know better, or something like that.
Exactly. And she just threw their parents under the bus, and then at the same time encouraged the kids to do against whatever their parents are teaching them.
Yeah.
And I just thought, where in the world does she get the right to all of these children, all these kids? And if I remember, it's high school. It's high school. Yeah. And she was somewhat popular in the school because she was involved with some extracurricular clubs and so forth. So she had influence on a lot of children even outside of her classroom. And she took the liberty to actually say, what your parents are telling you is garbage, it's wrong, don't listen to them. And I just said, holy cow.
I watched that clip, and when I heard her say that, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Is this possible that my kids are getting told certain things like this?
Yeah, where you as a taxpayer is paying the school system to actually teach your children math, arithmetic, reading, writing. You're hoping that they're actually being tooled to have a successful career in life and adjust well in society. And here's this person coming at you saying all of your when you go home, your parents don't know what they're talking about. Like,
they're old school. They don't. Yeah, you should know better than they do. It's just
man.
That'll go real well with when parents hear that. And to see what the government is doing about this, where like parents are standing up about even things like masks, whether you agree with wearing masks or not, but like when parents are showing up to school boards and like voicing their opinion, now it's suddenly the federal government is like cracking down on that and like kind of intimidating you, saying like us as parents, and so that sort of thing just irks me.
Yeah, the thing that amazes me is there's instances that are now popping up through social media of people, parents primarily, going to the school boards and challenging the school boards as to what they're actually bringing in as curriculum.
Yeah,
and it's interesting to me how far the school boards in some instances have gone beyond what the primary purpose of schooling is to all these other ethereal type things that yes, they're important, but that's not what the mandate of the school is. The mandate of the school is to get them to compete at a national or international level where we have the ability to develop or create engineers, doctors, scientists, just professionals and tradesmen and women and so forth. So to think that they need to get into some of these more social things that I really do feel that the parents are more responsible for.
Yeah, and and it's like, who's making these decisions? I watched a clip. These days with social media, you see all sorts of stuff. But a clip of a parent confronting at a board meeting, confronting the board about a particular curriculum that was clear, like just something that the parent didn't agree with, and all the parents there didn't agree with, and the board didn't even know about it, didn't even know like what was going on, couldn't answer the questions about it. And so it's like. I think as parents we need to be a little bit more. Apparently, we need to be a little bit more assertive and pushy to say, hey, this needs to be, like you say, it's not like this is a free service that you're just this is something we're paying for, and so we need to you need to report to us about it and make sure that that it's something that we agree on.
So I think for parents, we can't abdicate our responsibilities as parents.
Yes.
They cannot be delegated.
No.
There are certain things that we can't give to the nanny, we can't give to the state, we can't give to the school. At the end of the day, it's our responsibility to teach these things. We cannot delegate them, and that's a responsibility we have to accept and embrace. But at the same time, we need to be more involved in the PTAs. We need to be more involved with what our children are coming home from school with. If not the assignments, at least understand what's going on in the class and really take an interest in it. I'm going to go so far as to say, are we even going to the parent-teacher meetings that happen within schools where we have a chance to actually talk to the teacher, not just to find out how the student's doing, but, okay, tell me about the curriculum. What's going on in the class? What are you trying to teach? Because unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately, some teachers have taken upon themselves the responsibility to parent the children. And that's where it's
not cool. Not cool in my book.
No. Okay, good. See, that was really good. All right, so we're going to end with something here that I refer to as a rapid fire discussion. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you something, this or that type of a question, and you need to pick one.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to go down a list.
Let's do it.
Pick it out. Here we go. First one: Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Okay. Money or fame?
Money.
Okay. Reading a book or watching a movie?
Depends. Movie.
Movie. Okay. Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
Okay. Disneyland or Disney World?
I'd have to say Disneyland because I've never been to Disney World.
Okay, good. Drive or fly?
I like driving.
I love driving.
I love getting behind a car and driving.
Oh, so do I. It's what's funny is people that are more passive in their driving. Why go so fast? You're going to get there at the same time. Why go so fast? I always, that jerk that races through the interstate and then they pull off, I pull in right behind them at the light. I'm like, no, you're just not getting the experience.
That's right.
I'm not saying you have to break laws and be illegal, but there's a joy in driving, and the people that are just lackadaisical and indifferent to their surroundings, there's a joy driving.
Oh yeah, I've told my wife there's two things that I would do if I wasn't doing what I would do. One, I would be a race car driver.
Done.
And two, I'd be a cook. I'd be a TV chef.
They're a TV chef. I didn't see that one coming. TV chef.
Yeah, those are the two things. So, but yeah, I love driving.
Okay, that's reminding me of the Muppets and the salad going everywhere. There's Chris.
That's what I imagine, right?
All right, there you go. All right, so there you go. And that's after watching a lot of Food Channel because of my wife. So yeah, I've seen that. All right, breakfast or dinner?
Breakfast.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, one, I do want to thank you for being here. This has been a joy, a lot of information, a lot of practical information. So I appreciate you sharing that. It's been great having Chris on the podcast today. One of the things that I definitely want to encourage you to do is not only watch this episode, but subscribe to the podcast. Why? We have episodes like this each and every week for you to actually work on your business. Today, we obviously address marketing, but we cover topics such as pricing, onboarding, various services that you should be providing with your clients, client relations, just different things to actually help you work on your business and build, in fact, the premier accounting firm in your area. So subscribe to the podcast. Also, I'd like to invite you, if you would like to learn more about this and other things that we have to offer, definitely go to universalaccounting.com or give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day, everybody.